This guy I made out with at the pagan bookstore told me about this group, this tantric group. That's the first thing I learned about Tantra, the difference between the initiated and the posers. If you had no idea what you were talking about, you'd said tantric yoga. If you were in the know, it was tantric. I was at a large church in southern Ohio. You wouldn't know it looking around. The churchly things, statues, crucifixes, pictures of what I could only assume were saints were covered with brightly covered material, like sitting Shiva with the Easter Bunny. There were 40 people sitting in a circle on the carpeted floor, old and young, hippies and goths, and people who looked like they just came from the office, still in work clothes. I was recently brokenhearted. I call these years my fatter years. Codependent isn't an accurate word. When my bipolar boyfriend disconnected with humanity, as he did in 6-month intervals, he also disconnected from our sex life. For 6 months, I got my orgasms from a half gallon of ice cream. It's not like I believed his libido was my fault, but society tells us that 20-year-old men are just walking cocks. So having a 20-year-old boyfriend who doesn't want to bang you for 6 months is like being told you're unfuckable over and over. There were periods we had crazy, wild sex, so I stayed for 5 years. The most formative years, from age 18 right out of high school until 23, from my parents' house to playing house, and now suddenly alone and lonely. If I wanted a way out of feeling unfuckable, Tantra was the way. I took a seat in the circle of people, and a couple sat in the center, Richard and Antoinette. Both in their mid-40s, Antoinette was tall, brunette, with a pixie haircut, like an older Winona Ryder. She was wearing a stylish, flowing purple tunic and harem pants. Richard was balding and thin. He wore loose, baggy clothes with a slightly sweaty sheen, but smelled like Tide laundry detergent. He gave off a perverted Mr. Rogers vibe. They introduced themselves. Richard did all the talking. I can't tell you a word he said because the entire time I was thinking about his forehead. He had a lump the size of half a golf ball on the right side of his forehead. It wasn't red or bruised, more of a deformity. And I thought, this guy has had literal mind-blowing sex. And I am witnessing the result. He opened with a few stretches. We all sat down in a circle and did an icebreaker where we said our name and told the group one word on how we felt. The people started at one end of the circle, and it was a lot of, "Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm unhappy." A lot of happies, and, "Oh, I'm feeling good." The crowd oohed and awed when somebody said they felt peaceful. The pressure was on. I didn't want to be some benign wallflower. I wanted someone to notice me. I've got to say something different, unexpected. And it came to me. And I said, "Jessica," and I gave a little wave. And then I looked directly at Richard and his wife and said, "Powerful." Richard actually squealed a little and clapped his hands. I was only 23. I didn't know any better than to catch the eye of an oversexed middle-aged man. For our first exercise, we paired up with a stranger. Richard asked us not to talk and softly gave instructions. "I sit opposite of you, very close. No, closer. I place my hand on your heart. It feels weird touching you. Your shirt is damp, and I can feel your heart pounding under my palm. And you place a hand on my heart, and I try not to flinch, and I think, what the fuck am I doing here? And I cover your hand with mine, and you cover mine with yours, and we start feeling silly looking at each other. I want to fake it. I want to say some bullshit right now, something that'll make you laugh. We're sitting so close that our knees touch, and when you exhale, I inhale. Did I brush my teeth? Is my breath as warm as yours? Why does this remind me of kissing? Is anyone else blushing? and we really look into each other's eyes. And I want to make you forget who I am or what I look like. I want you to think I'm somebody I'm not, but I can't. Because there's no room for that. I just have to be this human being, and you have to be that human being, and we can't change it. And we look for minutes and minutes. And we look for that connection and live with it. And I think this could end high school bullying. That peace in the Middle East could be obtained, and war could be avoided with this one technique. And just like that, I became a regular. Perhaps it was this earnestness that Richard and Antoinette noticed, but soon they had a special liking to me. Richard talked a lot about the tantric retreat, when for a whole weekend, every hour was dedicated to tantric practice. No partners required. For my budget, it was astronomical, $700, and there was no way I could pay for that. Richard pulled me aside one day. He knew from our conversations after class that I loved to write, and he needed some articles written up for the organization. He offered a trade. I contemplated the offer, a cabin in the woods with a bunch of people looking to practice Tantra. Of course I said yes. The retreat was mostly this: lecture, group exercises like massage or chanting or dancing, and solitary practice. Yes, masturbation. I'm partial to this one where you put the soles of your feet together. After each session, we were encouraged to go back to our rooms and practice the technique we discussed on ourselves, taking turns since the rooms were not private. Practicing by yourself has the advantage that when you're supposed to bring yourself to the brink of orgasm, you actually stop. I admit it, I spent most of my private time reading a novel I'd brought, because although I adore masturbation, exploring my tantric self in a squeaky bunk bed at an old Girl Scout camp did not inspire me. And that was disappointing. In fact, the whole workshop was really not the orgy fest I was expecting. Well, almost. On the last day, we had one more workshop before heading home. The sun was going down. Richard and Antoinette talked about the culmination of all we had learned over the weekend and how we had embraced the divine within each other. They explained what was about to happen could not in any way be inappropriate or sexual, or they would stop the exercise. Okay, weird disclaimer. One of the assistants started to get undressed. We would get down to the level of nakedness that we were comfortable with, but we were encouraged to get completely naked. The blood started to rush into my ears. I was no longer listening. I looked around trying to find someone hesitating, an ally, maybe a group of people saying, "What? No." But there was no one. We were broken into 7-person groups. The assistant and her partner demonstrated. She lay on her back, closed her eyes. They did several breathing techniques. They were not to speak, not to kiss, no intimate action. Intimate action? We were naked. How much more intimate did he expect this to get? One person would lay down in our group at a time, and the entire group would massage this person at once. 6-on-1 gangbang massage. There was no way. I was not ready for this. If it was an orgy, no one would even care what I looked like. We'd all be getting our rocks off. Non-sexually getting undressed in front of you was like being in front of firing squad. Shirts and dresses were being folded neatly, and a couple of sheepish grins and crossed arms over bare breast, but everyone was undressing. I had no choice. I couldn't be the prude revolutionary. I had to get undressed. My jeans and underwear came off in one fell swoop because I did not want anyone seeing my granny whites. I balled them up with my shirt. My bra took longer. Big boobs mean 5 eye hooks. I couldn't just expertly unsnap them from behind. I had to do the flip and twist and haul it around in front of me. But I was naked. It was hard to find a place to look. The ceiling, the carpet. Oh, look at those lovely curtains and flaccid penis. Luckily, someone in our group volunteered to go first and lay down. It began. Minutes went by quickly. Richard came around and told us the time was up and to move to the next person. It was my turn. This was the bravest thing I had done to that point in my life. Getting naked and laying down between 6 people and letting 12 hands rub oil all over my body was terrifying, mortifying. I closed my eyes and I thought about every imperfection. I thought about all those hands connected to those people touching my imperfections. It was painful. But I thought, when else am I ever going to experience this? So I gave it all up. All those thoughts, all that worry, all those judgments. And I lived in that moment. 12 hands moving on your body at once with your eyes closed, it doesn't feel like 6 people. It feels like 600 people or one giant person. It feels like all the wonderful, amazing, positive energy in the world trying to wrap you up and make you understand how much it wants to be part of you. There's no room for the rest of it. No way to fake my way through it. It felt good. It felt happy. And most of all, I actually felt powerful. On my way home from the workshop, I was at a gas station, still greasy from the massage oil. And someone asked for my phone number. I never went back to Tantra. I dated a lot more, but I also didn't feel like I had to date. I was very comfortable with being me. I wouldn't say that I always live in the present, but I haven't lost those tantric techniques, and you might catch me leaning in closer to you. Inhaling when you exhale. And I'll look into your eyes and hold it, and for just a moment, maybe we'll connect. Awkwardly, uncomfortably, but honestly, connect.
Jessica Hilt.